Okay, committee members and participants, we are now live.
Thank you so very much and good afternoon. This is a continuation of the committee of the whole and the budget process. Mr. McDermott, can you read the titles of the bills and resolutions we are hearing?
This is a continuation of the Committee of the Whole for bills number 230144, 230145, 230146, 230147, 230148, 230149, and resolution number 230162.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott. And our next witness to testify is the fire department. Commissioner, are you there?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, state your name for the record and please begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Majority Leader Jones and members of City Council. I am Fire Commissioner Adam Teal. Joining me today are First Deputy Fire Commissioner Craig Murphy and Chief of Staff Tara Moore. I'm pleased to provide testimony on the Fire Department's fiscal year 2024 operating budget. The mission of the Philadelphia Fire Department is to serve the public by providing comprehensive all hazards prevention, risk reduction, and emergency response, and to ensure the health and safety of the PFD's members. I know you've received our written testimony, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so very much. Let me start with the fact that we appreciate the great work of the fire department and that we are probably and arguably one of the best training of fire cadets to become firemen in the region, if not the country. We had an opportunity to visit your facility last Friday. Member Driscoll, Member O'Neill, and I toured the facility and got to know the men and the great level of detail to the training that it requires to become a fireman in the city of Philadelphia. So, can you start by telling us our fires and fire fatalities? Where are we compared to this time last year and maybe for the last 4 years?
Council member, appreciate the question. The Philadelphia Fire Department is hands down one of the busiest fire departments in the entire nation, perhaps in the entire world. In fiscal year 2022, we received more than 370,000 calls for service. That equated to almost 500,000 runs, actual vehicles responding to incidents. And it was about 300,000 emergency incidents, both fires, emergency medical incidents, hazardous materials incidents, technical rescues, and the like. So very busy fire department. As you all have heard me say, the nation has a fire problem. And unfortunately, we have a severe fire problem in Philadelphia still. In the last calendar year, we had 41 resident fire deaths. And unfortunately, in addition to that, we had almost 2,000 people displaced from their homes and more than 100 injuries. This year already, just this year, from January until April of 2023, we've already had 11 fire deaths around the city, 75 injuries, and 522 people, our neighbors, displaced by fires across Philadelphia. In fact, today alone, we've had 3 severe fires, 2 firefighters were injured. So that is not an unusual day. That's unfortunately a pretty regular day for us. We average 8 to 10 severe fires every 24 hours, around 800 to 1,000 emergency incidents every 24 hours. About 80% of those are emergency medical services, 20% are fire related. If you divide that by workload, the actual kind of weight of response, it's closer to a 60-40 or a 50-50 split. So, and again, the last year we had the busiest ambulance in the entire nation right here in Philadelphia. That busiest ambulance was not in New York. It was not in LA, Houston, Phoenix, or Chicago. Those are the cities that are bigger than us. It was right here in Philadelphia. So the women and men of the Philadelphia Fire Department, almost 3,000 strong, continue to be absolutely among the busiest, and certainly in my mind, and I appreciate your comments, the best in the U.S.
Well, we agree. We agree. We saw it firsthand up at the facility. It's my understanding your training facility. So wait a minute, let me start. How many vacancies do you have within the department?
We're about 84% staffed right now. Our authorized strength is 3,460. Right now, we're around 2,913. We do have our academy is full right now. As you saw, we have 2 firefighter EMT classes in there right now. I think about 70 in one and 80 in the other. And we actually just graduated a class of EMS providers, 43. We'll be trying to fit another class of single role EMS providers in there too. So we are absolutely maxed out right now at the academy in terms of what we can have up there. That's good news. It's great to see our academy full because ultimately that's moving us through the pipeline of recruiting, hiring, training, and of course getting those folks through that 9-month academy to be firefighter EMTs and out on the street serving our residents, businesses, and visitors.
So as I understand it, you guys can comfortably train somewhere between 75 and 80 cadets without overtaxing your facility. And you break that up into like 3 different classes a year. So it's staggered. And more recently, you could do 12 hours on, help me to understand, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, or is that 2 days on? Yeah,
I think you certainly, I can tell you've been talking to our very dedicated deputy chief of training up there comfortably. We push comfortable. It's definitely not comfortable there right now. We really need to get folks through. I think the peak that we had, we were able to get a federal staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grant a few fiscal years ago. We had around 200 firefighter EMT cadets in the academy at once. The academy staff did an incredible job. Our adjunct instructors getting those folks through. That allowed us to restore 4 fire engines, as you'll recall. That was probably, I would agree, uncomfortable. I think we are hoping that we can accommodate, whether it's comfortable or not, kind of the number that we have up there now, somewhere around 2 classes, but still staggered, not for the entire 9 months. We need to be able to stagger those classes so they're finishing, one class finishes its EMT training, the other class is starting that. But as you said, they've done a great job up there with coming up with a number of novel shift schedules and work schedules to try to accommodate an increasing number of cadets in both our firefighter EMT programs as well as our fire service paramedic and fire service EMT programs.
Please, Commissioner, don't get my guy in trouble. He was just telling us how things are up there. Don't punish him.
No, not at all. He's great. Far from it, council member. That was a shout out. He does an incredible job, and I appreciate the work they're doing to accommodate that number of cadets, however uncomfortable it might be.
Yeah, he and the other supporting members up there really take that training to heart and are willing to go to the limit to train our cadets to become firemen. Let me shift gears, and I'm gonna recognize Councilman Squilla in a minute, but we were looking at the equipment that is used and some of the carcinogens that those pieces of equipment are exposed to. And what we were talking about was, how much do you spend annually to clean that equipment, to get the smoke out of the equipment up there?
Council member, I think our chief of staff is looking up the exact number. I can tell you that it's more than it was 7 years ago. We've increased the cleaning cycle for what we call the turnout gear, the structural firefighter protective clothing. It still probably isn't enough. We would like to be able to be in a position where every time that gear is used in a fire, and here in Philadelphia, that's quite frequently, that it's able to be laundered and refreshed. Still, we're finding out increasingly that even some of the materials that are in that gear have potentially carcinogenic materials in them. So unfortunately, firefighters are at a much higher risk of many different types of cancers than the general population. So there's still a lot more work for us to do in terms of increasing the frequency of that cleaning. As well, there's still a lot of research going on about the efficacy of that cleaning and what we can do versus what the materials are that's already in the gear. So I can tell you, if you're okay, we can get back to you with the exact number. We're still working on a number of different strategies to be able to try to front load more of that gear cleaning so we can do it more frequently. And then, of course, we'll be coming at some point when gear is on the market that will not be laden with carcinogens right out of the chute, we'll be back to City Council to try to get some of that. And I think Tara has the number.
Okay.
It's approximately. I apologize. Do I need to introduce myself? My name is Tara
Yes.
Moore. I'm the Chief of Staff of the Fire Department. It's approximately $1 million a year. It fluctuates up and down depending on the type of incidents that happen over the course of the year. If there's a higher alarm or a more acute fire, that might go up, but it's approximately $1 million.
So my question will be that at what point does it make sense for us to buy the cleaning equipment and store it up at State Road? Is that calculation ever been considered?
Absolutely, Councilmember. We actually have purchased some of the what they call extractors. These are very specialized washing machines. They're not your typical washing machine. And we have those installed at a couple of our firehouses. The challenge with that is not so much, well, those are very expensive. It's not like going and buying a washer dryer. So they're very expensive. The real challenge that we have there is the already strained infrastructure in our existing firehouses. So these washer dryers, these extractors require much heavier duty electrical and plumbing. And right now we just haven't been able to consistently put together the retrofit package with the dollars available in the capital budget to make the firehouses ready to accept that equipment as well. It doesn't really make sense if we have a firehouse that's on an upgrade path. We're about 100 million plus in needed repairs and upgrades to firehouses around the city. It doesn't make sense to make those changes for DPP, to make those Department of Public Property, to make those changes, put that equipment in, and then we're going to be doing a complete renovation in 3 to 5 years. So that's definitely something we're looking at and we want to do. We also had a capital project for what we call a logistics hub that was kind of on the map before COVID. With COVID, that project disappeared from the capital budget. That was going to allow us to have a centralized location where we could do that. So hopefully if the capital budget pressure changes in the near future, we might be able to get that project back on the map.
So we would encourage you doing that. I know how dear your men are to you, but I want you to know that they're dear to us as well. And that's the kind of capital expense that is worth it. And so, yeah, you're right. Logistically, if we're fixing firehouses, does not make sense to not consider the fit out for those specialized machines. But where we can, and if we can do a centralized cleaning location to figure out if the numbers make sense to make that investment. So with that, Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Much appreciated. Thank you, Commissioner, for your testimony, and thank you for your continued advocacy on fire protection and safety. And my question is basically on the national fire safety plan that is being implemented countrywide. And knowing that, that is a plan, and it's not only for urban areas and city areas, right? It's for forest fires and everything included. But what can we take from that, and what can we do as a city to help implement those standards here in Philadelphia?
Councilmember, I appreciate the question and appreciate you being there when the U.S. Fire Administrator came to be as part of the launch of that national fire strategy. Fire protection and emergency medical services in the U.S. is almost entirely a local government responsibility. So here in Philadelphia, it's the same thing. And that actually, City Council certainly knows this. I do think that it is not always common knowledge that it's local tax dollars, local revenues that pays for fire and EMS. We've been very fortunate that we've benefited from a number of federal grant programs over the years to help us purchase smoke alarms, restore those 4 fire companies that were closed in the last recession. Well, 4 of the 7 companies that were closed in the last recession, a number of other things. So we have some great partnerships. We've also gotten grants with our health department partners from federal HHS, Health and Human Services. So we've been very successful with federal grants. At the end of the day, though, really local fire protection is, funded with local revenues and by local governments. And I think the other thing that's really key, and you heard in that event, this is not something that the fire department can do alone. We are really, we never have home field advantage. We are always going into, we don't go in folks' homes. We don't have a right of entry into folks' homes. So this is why you hear us say frequently, help us help you. Fire is everyone's fight. We really need residents, businesses, and visitors around the city to be fire safe and pay attention to the leading causes of fires, which are cooking, heating, smoking, electrical, and open flame. So we really need folks to do that. Fires are burning hotter and faster than ever before. The science shows that very clearly. We're seeing that here in Philadelphia. Our firefighters are getting to incidents quickly. They're making aggressive interior attacks, as the leader said before, highly skilled, very experienced. And unfortunately, it's all too often too late. We're finding homes that don't have smoke alarms. So, of course, we've installed more than 70,000 smoke alarms over the past 7 years. It's still not enough. So we really need everybody engaged in this and help us create fire-safe buildings, or really create fire-safe buildings that's also safer for our firefighters. And unfortunately, last year we also had several firefighters who were killed from Sean Williamson, of course, killed in a building collapse after a fire, and other firefighters who died from other causes, whether cancer or heart disease, that we have a higher propensity for.
Well, I think we need to play a role, obviously, in that, and fire safety is key. When we look at, and we talked about 4 of the 7 departments that were closed have reopened, and I know you guys have applied for a grant for apparatus for Engine 6, and I think there's 2 ladder companies. Have we reapplied for a federal grant for those apparatuses?
We have. It's not for the apparatus per se. It's really for the staffing. So it's the firefighters to staff Engine 6, Ladder 1, and Ladder 11, which are the remaining companies that were closed in 2008 and 2009. So we have applied for that. Anticipating your next question, we don't know when we'll hear. And that process in the federal government is contingent on federal budgets and federal administrative processes. We were certainly disappointed. We thought from an equity standpoint, if nothing else, objectively by the numbers, one of the busiest fire departments in the country, that we should have received that grant last year. We've made kind of our questions known to our federal grantors, but they have been great partners over the years. So we're very hopeful for this next round. And I want to give our chief of staff and a great team that put together these grant applications. It certainly is no reflection on them that we didn't get funded. There's a huge competition for these very limited grant funds, and we're in competition with departments around the country.
Yeah, and I agree. And listen, it's not like we're adding additional. We're just getting back what we lost. So I think that's also, and Engine 6 had some structural issues on their engine station there that we have money into the budget to repair that. Is that repair starting this summer? Are you aware of that?
I believe so. That's, again, Department of Public Property maintains all of the firehouses along with other city facilities. But yes, that is, one of the challenges is we also have to make sure that's one of our older firehouses. So we have to reinforce the floor to be able to accommodate what was designed for literally a horse-drawn fire engine. We need to put a modern fire apparatus in there. So yes, I believe that project is planned to be completed this year. So if we are fortunate enough to get the grant after we train those firefighter EMTs, hopefully we'll be able to put them in there. And of course, subject to accepting the grant and having those funds in a conversation with our budget office.
Well, and I think that's important for us to know too, because we need to be prepared for that. It's not only about having the building to be ready, and we believe the money's in there to do that, but there's going to be resources needed from the city of Philadelphia to make sure we have those 3 departments back. And so what we need to do is, how do we, as council, to make sure we have enough money in our budget, because it's not in our budget currently. We get that grant, we have to be prepared to be able to have these locations ready and available. So what is it that we need to do, and resources that we would need to add into our budget to make sure that we are ready for when we hope we get approved for this grant? I think we will this time. It seems pretty, and we've been advocating to our friends in the federal government. So we will continue to advocate for that. But this is important because, as you said, fires are burning faster. And it's probably because the materials used in furniture and other things are made differently, and it's not the same as the old type furniture we have. So when you have less time to get there, we need to make sure we have people as close as possible. And is there a way to get to all of council, or at least to the chair, Council Member Jones, Council President, to make sure we have that, what is necessary in a budget that we could look for to make sure it's available for when this grant comes through, because we need to have these stations back.
Councilmember, yeah, we would probably, if we're fortunate enough to get the grant, and that's an if, and subject to a conversation with our budget office and the administration, it really kind of nets out. We can get you a number to be expecting at mid-year if we are fortunate enough to do that. But it really nets out as a cost share. It's not exactly like this, but it kind of nets out over the 3-year program. The federal program is about a 50-50 cost share. So I think it's around a $26 million federal ask, and we would have to contribute about half of that. So around $13 million.
So,
and then that continues. The expectation is that continues beyond the grant performance period.
but we need to be prepared for that. So what I'm saying is we need to look at that and have that in our budget, because if you get that and then there's no money in the budget, we need to have that available. And unfortunately, if we don't get the grant, which I'm feeling good at this point, I felt good last time, but unfortunately we weren't there. But we're not going away, and we're not going to stop asking for it, because it's really necessary to get Engine 6 and 2 ladder companies back. And if Tara or whoever could share those numbers back with us, to make sure that we have them at least sent to the administration to be considered for this year's budget. We need to really get those stations up and running. So thank you for what you do and all your work. One last question, and sort of about the river, when we were talking about our riverboat and our dock down there. Has there been any movement on that to have that dock installed? I know we talked about last year.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough to get a donated dock at Marine Unit 2 down in the Schuylkill. We are, I think, confident now. I see Tara nodding that project is finally going to move forward and replace the tree or log that has kind of been the dock since time immemorial. So yeah, I think we're confident that's going to work out now. Again, thanks to great partnerships with the donors, with DPP and other agencies within the city.
Yeah, I mean, if people saw pictures of how they were getting on the boat and jumping onto a log and then jumping onto the boat, and in a city like ours, it didn't make any sense. We had somebody willing to donate it, and then we couldn't figure out. Well, we got through that process. We don't have to bring it up. Is there a timeline when that's going to be installed?
If Tara knows, yeah, Tara.
Right now, they're anticipating to operationalize it by the end of this summer.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. No, I know it took a little bit of time, but hey, listen, all that stuff is worth fighting for. So thank you for your continued advocacy on that, and looking forward to working with you and seeing those numbers and how we could work with our colleagues to make sure we have enough money in our budget for when these stations come to fruition and when the federal grant comes through. And I know you don't know what timeline, but hopefully it's before the end of the year.
Keep our fingers crossed, council member. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Squilla. Chair recognizes Member Harity.
Hello, Chairman. Hello, Commissioner. Thank you, Mark, because I was going to ask about the 3 companies too. So I'm glad we're actually getting somewhere on that. I only have really one question. You guys do a great job. My grandfather was a firefighter. My father was always the opposite, so he became a cop. Now I'm a councilman, so we're all over the place.
Service.
But I'd just like to know how many firefighters and paramedics are we short currently, and is there any kind of programs that we're trying to do in order to recruit?
Council member, appreciate the question. So, like I said, right now we have 3,460 budgeted positions. Some of those are non-uniform positions. We have 2,913 filled positions. So that delta's around, I'll say around 500. We have attrition every month. So I'll say around 500 round numbers, probably 400 uniformed firefighters, EMTs, paramedics. We're doing a lot with recruitment, and we're very fortunate. You've probably heard, and this is a fact in the fire and EMS service around the country, a lot of challenges with getting folks through the door. We certainly have seen our applications go down, but we still have ample folks who are applying to become firefighter EMTs here in Philadelphia. And we just graduated a class of fire service paramedics and fire service EMTs of 43. Many EMS agencies are having trouble filling their ranks at all. Now, this is not a coincidence. We've spent a lot of time and effort over the past 7 years on recruiting. We doubled the size of our recruiting unit. We doubled the size of our Explorers program. We were able to give them a dedicated space. We reinvested in our program with the school district at the Randolph School. So we've been doing a lot. And I think it really shows up in both the changes, the improvements in the overall diversity of the fire department, and the fact that we are not having some of the challenges that other departments are. That said, we still have a challenge with advanced life support providers, paramedics. So we've been working to and have successfully created an advanced EMT program. And we're working on getting our fire service EMTs, as well as hiring folks and restarting our community EMT programs to really kind of create our own pipelines and grow our own advanced life support providers here in Philadelphia. It's really working. Knock on wood. I hope it will continue to work. And now the real challenge is just throughput through our academy. How fast can we put people through there? I shouldn't say how fast. How can we move people through our existing program, with quality to make sure that we have them, that we don't have high attrition rates. We have folks who are going to be prepared when they hit the street, because that's really where the learning begins. And one of the toughest places to be an emergency medical services provider and a firefighter in the U.S.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad to hear that you're expanding your Explorer program. I'm all for that. And please let me know how I can be of help. I believe that if we can reach these kids and steer them this way, that's why I'm also in support of the Police Explorers program and their new cadet program they're trying to start, because that's what I was saying. We end up losing these kids in between the time that they actually leave the Explorer program and the time that they're actually allowed to be a firefighter or a police officer. I know with the police officers, it's 21 because you have to be able to carry a weapon. I don't know if that's the same for you guys, or what's the age?
We're hiring more and more people out of our Explorers program right into the fire department. I think our last academy class that we graduated had 4 or 5 Explorers. Actually, it might even be more than that in the class, and a number of those are bilingual. Actually, our Explorers, I like to think of our Explorers as the future of the fire department. Right now, we have 126 Explorers in this class. 47% are women. 86% are diverse backgrounds, and 35% are bilingual. So I'm really excited, and I'm glad we got a facility at 78th and Ogons, and that's been a great investment. It broke my heart when we had to turn Explorers away when I first got here. So the recruiting unit does a great job with that. The parents, the Explorers parents, the Explorers themselves. So I'm hopeful that is really kind of a window into our future, that Explorers program.
Good stuff. I like that. And just one more question. How does the salary compare to other, because with the police department, we're losing employees to the counties and different states. There's actually a billboard on 95. It says, be a Miami police officer, live on the beach, $79,000 to start, $20,000 signing bonus. So how are we doing?
Councilmember, I think the challenge for us is the workload for our EMS providers. I think that is the real challenge. We should not have the busiest ambulance in the nation. That is a reflection of the fact that we don't have enough ambulances, and we've added 10 ambulances, 10 medic units, peak time units over the past 7 years. So we went from 50 when I first got here. Now we have 60 during the day, still 50 at night. We need more. Now there's really right now, it's a challenge. We can't necessarily get the providers, the advanced life support providers for that. That's a national shortage. I think our compensation is actually better than a lot of our peer jurisdictions. We're seeing medics coming from other jurisdictions, just not enough. And there are jurisdictions to the south where folks can work, not be quite as busy during their shift as they are here in Philadelphia and make the same or more money. So the other issue right now with ambulances, with the supply chain challenges, we can't even get the actual vehicles. So we're in better shape than a lot of folks, but we do need more capacity, more EMS transport capacity. At the same time, we're trying to change our demand profile with our alternative response units that have been very successful. So we're doing everything we can. I think, salaries and benefits, we need to continue to we don't want to start losing that compensation battle. I think as we start to make, really address the workload and continue to make investments in all aspects of our business, I think, hopefully we'll be able to continue to be successful with recruiting and hiring.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Kara. I have no more questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Member Harity. So are there any other members to question our fire department? Seeing none. Thank you so much for your testimony. Thank you for your work. And please take advantage of letting us know about those funding needs so that we can do our part here in City Council.
Thank you all. And remember that fire is everyone's fight. Thank you.
Yes,
Check
we
your
will.
smoke alarms.
All right. Thank you. Mr. McDermott, are you there?
Yes, Councilman, I'm here.
So we should recess till 3 o'clock
That's correct. 3 o'clock for public testimony.
for public testimony. So all members, we are going to recess these hearings until 3 o'clock, where we will receive public testimony on the budget. Thank you all.